Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, June 6th, 2024 Committee of the Whole Meeting Administration. We'll begin with a roll call. Rodney Riley is here. Ryan Curry.
Here.
Ryan Schneider.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Brent Mueller.
Here.
Tom Wahlberg.
Here.
Elisa Patterson.
Here.
Dana Logston.
Here.
Jerry Branson.
Here.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
And Marion Thornberry.
Here.
Okay, Dave Wiltsey, nothing from him?
Nah, you guys give me a minute here. I'm just verifying.
Aaron's going to wave at me then if he decides to join, and then we can take care of that at that point. All right, we don't have any minutes. Public comment this evening? I didn't get any slips up. Okay, we'll move along.
He's joining.
Joining now? Okay. Can somebody make a motion to allow Dave Wiltsey to participate remotely this evening? A motion by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Curry. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Dave, you with us?
He's on here.
He will be. All right. Mr. Larson, administration, go ahead.
Thank you. 6.1 monthly presentation with Sheriff Young for public safety.
Chairman.
Yep.
We need to approve the agenda now, I guess.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Thornberry. I appreciate that. Where did I miss that from? There it is. Okay, 4.1, motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, sir. Motion by Mr. Thornberry, seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Sheriff, thank you again.
Oh, that was fine.
We have time if you need it.
Yes, no, Justin said he was going to keep his short if I kept mine short, so
Okay.
just cut mine in half. To start off with, like we always do, the budgets have been posted up there. There's nothing too alarming except for the same story that we give you every month. Right now it's corrections, overtime, and obviously dispatch. The situation we're in there with staffing right now is causing a lot of that. And I'll go over those numbers. With patrol right now, we're currently 2 deputies short on patrol. We have 2 out on medical, and we currently have 3 in FTO. So getting there once we get these 3 individuals that are in FTO up and on their own. And one of these individuals that's out on medical should be back soon. We should be good there. Corrections, we're 3 short. Unfortunately, one of the COs that we just hired and just graduated, unfortunately, this individual decided that this career was not for herself. So she did resign. So that leaves us really short. Obviously, in any type of criminal justice, we waited approximately a year to get this individual into school. So that really backs you up at that point. But hopefully things work out for her and her family situation on that. We have 1 out on medical, and we had 1 that just was released onto FTO by himself. So that'll help that situation. Dispatch, we're 2 short. We just had 1 resign. She just basically stated it wasn't for herself. She was also a new hire. So she resigned. That leaves us 2 short. 1 was just released from FTO on her own. And then 1 just returned from medical for a short time there. We were 4 short. So that's 25% of the staff. If we're full staff in dispatch, that's 16. So it's going to show you where our overtime, why our numbers are going to be way off this budget year. Obviously, we're doing our best with corrections. We're just trying to get them into school. It's very difficult to find openings in school. We do have some for, I believe it's September. So hopefully we'll get some in school in September, and then we'll move forward with that. Speaking of the jail, I know we approved the showers in Capitol. I was told on Tuesday that project should be completed. either today or tomorrow. So I did not find out if they completed that, but obviously it'll be completed this week. I have been up in corrections a few times looking at that, and this company that was hired is doing an amazing job. For those that know a lot about contracts and contracting, it's unfortunate the way, because these are the showers in our new jail that was built, I believe, in 2002, not the old jail that was built in 1972. But when you look at some of the tile and some of the grout that was put on, it shows why we're replacing these, because it just wasn't built right, basically put together right. So hopefully that'll help those situations. I did want our LPRs, we got that retail theft grant, using those LPRs. We currently have 3 of those LPRs that are up and working, 3 out of the 6, I believe it is. I do want to give a shout out to Detective Schutz, who's been behind this project for a while now, and has just really done an excellent job, not just with our department, but with other jurisdictions and other agencies throughout this county in getting these cameras installed. And he's just been such an asset behind this project. But here's some numbers that I want to throw out to you that he gave me. And this is 3 of the 6 flock cameras that are currently installed. At the current time, we have read over 330,000 license plates. Of those 330,000 license plates, 318 of those have been conducted into a search, into a traffic stop. Of these 330,000, just under 2,000, they hit what we could put on a hot list. So these license plates are either a number of things, but suspended, registration suspended, stolen vehicles, revoked drivers, suspended drivers. So it's a hot list of things. So it's given us almost 2,000 hits, hot lists. And the way this works is our deputies have the option to put this on their phone. All right. So early on, we were pretty excited to get this program, and the majority of the deputies installed this on their phone, and it would alert them when one of these vehicles would drive by one of these cameras. Unfortunately, we didn't know that it was going to give us 330,000 hits. So, we kind of had to scale that back, or they, obviously them or their spouse or whoever, when this thing's going off all night long, a lot of them scaled that back to when they were alerted. So that's how this works. We've had very, very good information on some leads on some felony warrants, and we've had some felony retail thefts from Farm and Fleet a couple occasions by using these flock cameras. So they've been a great asset to us in our profession, basically. You want to say just Boone County Sheriff's Department, but throughout the area, they've been a great asset for all of us. So, and just to top that off, that grant, that retail theft grant that we got for last year to get these has been renewed. So that was a 12-month grant. That grant has just been renewed, so we'll be able to use that for another 12 months. Because that grant kind of started right away, and it took us a while to get these going. So, we did have one incident in the jail last weekend. We had an individual that was brought in, be aware of this, that he coded when he was brought in the intake. 3 of our correctional officers did an outstanding job by performing CPR and hitting this individual with Narcan. Obviously, he was transported to the hospital where he was placed into critical condition and was eventually released. Hopefully in the future, if not next month, the next month, I'll definitely honor these 3 correctional officers that did one heck of a job that day. One by saving this individual's life and getting him the help that he needed. So very nice job for them, of them that day. So we really appreciate them. There's a couple accidents. We didn't have any fatalities for the month of May, but we did have 3. I was notified on 3. So obviously when I'm notified, it's touch or go. We had one at Garden Prairie, Marengo. We had one at Shaw and Spring Creek. And we also had one at Genoa and Davis School. And as of yesterday, all those individuals will survive those accidents. My last thing is just a little list of the traffic accidents. I know a county board member wants some information on some of the intersections in the county and where we're at. So what I did is obviously put the accidents from January 1st until today's date. And then I'll just give you what are top. So if you obviously represent these areas, what intersections, and these are all PD, PI, or fatality accidents. These are just accidents. They come into dispatch as an accident. So it's all the above accidents. So as of right now, the number one intersection is Caledonia and Orth Road for traffic accidents. Number two is Route 173 and Caledonia Road. Number three is Poplar Grove and Marengo Road. Number four is Shaw and Spring Creek. And we have several tied, not several, but we have a few that are tied with in the fifth spot, and that's Illinois Route 176 and Whiting, Caledonia and 76, and Woodstock and Poplar Grove. So that kind of just gives you an idea. Obviously, if you want to contact me, I can give you more information on numbers of what these traffic accidents, or if they're PDs, property damage, or PI accidents. So feel free to reach out to me and I can give you more information on that later. So with that, any questions?
Mr. Thornberry?
We have any process in place to recoup our training costs when people drop out after training?
No.
I know a lot of places I've worked for and been in association with, if you don't work a certain length of time after.
Yeah, we would have to put that into place and, basically get a signature. Some departments do that. And it's not so much dropping out because you don't lose too many individuals that way. Sometimes you have the fear of them leaving your department, going to another agency. And then you kind of ask that agency if they will pick up at least half the cost. But yeah, you have to have something in place. We do not have nothing in place. I'll be honest with you, that early in this individual's career, some have not made, the field training program, but I cannot remember of one that had left that early, in their career, but it does happen. But no, we don't have nothing in place. So yeah, huge expense, huge cost.
Mr. Riley?
How's the body cam? You getting them rolled out or is it all going?
Yeah, the body cameras, all the equipment's in. We're still putting all of our pieces together for, the cars, linking our cars up to our body cameras. So everything's in place. Our target date, I'm going to say August 1st. We definitely want to get these up and going before the fair. So I'm going to give a target date of August 1st. Definitely, if you want to write that down, hold me to that. I really want to get these going as well. But obviously, there's a lot of with IT and everything else, storage and everything else that we're putting together. So yeah, everything's there. So hopefully by August 1st, these will be up and running. Yep.
Ms. Branson?
Oh, I was just going to follow up on Marion's comment, about having something in place to recoup the money. That was my first thought too, is that we should have something like that. But on the other side of the coin is the fact that you don't want somebody working in their profession that doesn't truly want to be there. You don't want to force them to it because.
Exactly. And there was a lot, obviously there was a lot with this individual after graduation. So it probably was the right thing at this time. But yeah, it is a loss for our behalf and financial, but yeah, you don't want this individual at this stage of his or her life and what they're going on to be employed, by the sheriff's department. So
It sucks.
there you go. I didn't say it. She did. I'll just nod my head.
But it is.
Okay, any other questions for Sheriff Young? Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, Sheriff. On to 6.2, highway monthly presentation with Mr. Crone.
Thank you. I'll follow up the accident statements. We are scheduled and approved and contracted to put rumble strips at I believe it was the 4th, Ringo and Poplar Grove Road. So there are rumble strips that are going to go on both sides of that intersection this summer. And we're currently underway with a grant to do safety improvements throughout the county. So if there's any input, we are looking at accident reports, statistics, all that. And we're also taking input from the public. So if there's any input, R1 is leading this effort to do safety improvements. We are going to have a public input session here, most likely next month in July before one of our committee meetings, probably from 5 to 6 or something, to get public input. And if the public's not able to attend those, there's a website as well. I believe I had it on. We'll put it on our website, but I believe I had it on my presentation last month. And you can put kind of a indicator at areas where you believe are unsafe, or they could use some improvements, and put comments on there. So we're collecting all that data. So of course, we're always interested in improving our transportation system and safety. I have a monthly report. I'm not going to go through all that. If you have any questions, I can answer that at the end. There is one thing that I did want to hit on. So I've been here 8 years at the county, and before that I was a consultant, and I've worked with IDOT quite a bit. Saw a lot of different things go on. While here at the county, the last 8 years I've worked under two IDOT employees you have the governor, you have the secretary of transportation, Omer Osman, and then you have a bureau chief of local roads, and that person oversees counties, townships, and municipalities. Bureau chief, like I said, in the 8 years, there's been 2 bureau chiefs down in Springfield, and typically there are people that work their way up through the ranks. They're IDOT employees, and I guess enough said with that. However, a year and a half ago, they hired somebody that wasn't from IDOT and was very aggressive, George Tapas, very aggressive employee, and did some great things for us within that year and a half, for the last year and a half, and got our funding improved, with IDOT collecting and the state collecting the funds and then distributing it out to townships, counties, and cities. They obviously have an interest in using that money for their system, more so than ours. We had some very good representation, very aggressive guy, probably too aggressive, changed some laws, made some efficiency improvements. We were getting projects through that were sitting on someone's desk for many months. He said that's unacceptable. Made changes to speed up bureaucracy and processes down there, and wouldn't let things kind of go stale down there. Anyway, he got Omer Osman, the secretary under the governor, chose to let him go last week. So he was given 30 minutes to clean out his desk and was gone. So things are kind of probably going to change down there a little bit. Over the last year and a half, things have improved quite a bit. Unfortunately, he obviously he wasn't part of the IDOT processes or the government bureaucracy down there, and so I think that and his willingness to make changes and do some improvements. He didn't make a lot of friends down there. So ultimately, he's no longer there. And so I think that's not a positive for the county and other local agencies. So I wanted to put his name as George Tapas, and he was great down there. I don't think he's done yet. Anyway, he's done with that position. He was terminated by the Secretary of Transportation Tuesday. But in fact, I would see him at conferences. He'd come up. He not only knew me by name, but knew our projects that were going on, and said, "Hey, those Piscataway bridges that you're trying to bundle, are those getting hung up down at Army Corps? Let me know if they are. We'll move them along." So he was, it was quite amazing. He was a structural engineer and a professional engineer, and I could go on and on, but I'll got to keep this short. Sheriff told me to. So anyway, his name was George Tapas, and so hopefully we'll see his name again through the process. But just wanted to mention like I said, three things that were not on my document. The George Tappas was the first. Second one is Genoa Road. If you recall, about a year ago, we jurisdictionally transferred that over to the city. Part of that agreement is that we would participate at 50% on some improvements that were needed through this transition process. So we're currently looking at hiring CES to do about $8,000 worth of engineering work to do some improvements down there. Prior to that, it was our road and we would have been 100%. So this is consistent with our agreement. And so I just wanted to mention that will get started or get underway here shortly. Obviously the city is the lead on it. And so we'll be on the hook for 4,000. It's all in our budget and there's no issues with that. I just wanted to mention to the board or to the committee. The last item is, so we've got a lot of projects going on. Spring Creek was actually wrapped up at about 4 o'clock today. So we're done with Spring Creek. We'll be painting that centerline striping it tomorrow morning, tomorrow. We've got a lot of other projects going on. I just wanted to list a couple of closures that will be happening based on, and we'll put these on the website as well. And we've got signs out for those, but we are looking at closing Wheeler Road down in over the tracks. So that bridge has some issues that kind of the timing worked out right. We're doing some work in-house and some other things, just to extend the life of that bridge. Placing a bridge over railroad tracks is a really difficult thing to work with. Railroads is definitely the most difficult agency to work with. So we're going to try to extend the life of that bridge a little bit longer. We are on the 10th, next Monday, we are taking the surface off that bridge. We're going to do some repairs to it. We should have everything put back together and resurfaced within 2 weeks. So that road at the tracks, basically between Bloods Point and Pool Road, Wheeler will be closed for approximately 2 weeks, possibly less. So I wanted to mention that closure. Beaverton Road, we're going to do something similar with the bridge on Beaverton Road, just south of 173. So that might be about a 2-week closure, maybe a little less. Denny Road in Edson, we're going to be putting in cooperation with Boone Township, we're going to be replacing some box culverts up there. And those box culverts will probably get installed late June. And during that period, the road will be closed. My guess is closure won't last more than a few days at each location. So it's near the intersection of Denny and Edson. And I'm open to any questions.
Any questions, comments? Mr. Thornberry?
Put my mic back together. The intersection of Marengo Road or Poplar Grove Road. I know putting rumble strips out there might help a little bit, but I think you would probably get a lot more results from a flashing yellow light at the crossroads sign on top of that overpass. There's a danger on that, the way I see it, is you're coming over coming up over an overpass, and there's an intersection right there in front of you. I think what we need more than rumble strips, something on top of that overpass to get people aware that they're coming up on an intersection. People who live here know it. A lot of people don't.
And I agree with you. We are going to do more than rumble strips. I failed to mention some other items. We are putting a radar speed sign out there as well. So I think a lot of the accidents, if everyone's going the speed limit, there's plenty of line of sight, even coming up over that bridge, there's plenty of line of sight. However, with the road improvements and other things, I think a lot of people coming down off that road accelerate more than they probably should, or go, their velocity is too high. So we are going to put a radar speed. We've actually got a grant to pay for it, a radar speed limit sign. So one of those speed limit signs that have a radar built in, and it'll indicate your speed. If you're going too fast, it'll start flashing things at you and that sort of thing. So, and we do have signs. I think you're talking about the overhead suspended, kind of like at Squaw Prairie and Poplar Grove, on the wire. So that is something that's being considered as well. That is a substantial. The other things are kind of low cost countermeasures, we call them, and so they're they're in the tune of maybe a few hundred or a few $1,000s. In order for us to drop poles and do a ComEd drop and do that, The one up at Poplar Grove and Squaw Prairie was in the neighborhood of $30,000. So, which I'm not opposed to doing that. Certainly if that can help, we are implementing all these low-cost countermeasures. And then if they're not effective, then we'll go that route. We'll keep going until we impacts.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion for Mr. Crum? Okay, see none. Thank you. On to the quarterly department presentations, assessments with Ms. Wellner.
Nice to see you all. This time of year in our office, we're doing really well. But basically starting from the time the tax bills are mailed until kind of abruptly right after the first payment is due, we're swamped with corrections. Sort of, it's called a certificate of error. Maybe some of you have interacted with this document. Most of them are related to missing exemptions because people don't, they get caught, life, and they don't fill out their exemption paperwork in a timely fashion. So we took some steps. Last year seemed like it was a pretty, it just seems like the number that we process gets more and more and more. So we took some steps this year. I took out, maybe you saw a couple ads in the shopper to remind people to do their paperwork. I delayed mailing the senior letter that we send out as a reminder to fill out that paperwork. The property tax code kind of ties how late I can send it, but we actually did see, but at this time we're tracking about 30% less than last year. And that's a good thing because it saves us labor hours and it saves the treasurer's office labor hours. It takes a lot of time to do this backwards. And correcting these mistakes is not something we as a county necessarily do as a courtesy. It's sort of built into the tax code that we need to do this. When exemptions are missing, this is what this document is for. So we're pretty happy that we have managed to push the needle. We're going to be looking for new ways to bring that down a little bit more for the next year. My report is mostly just what came out of the spring session down in Springfield, which ended a little early this year. All of the property tax legislation that was kind of crammed into this giant omnibus bill that really had over 25, 30 unrelated topics, all kind of crammed onto this huge raft and made it through. A lot of it was pretty light. Last year was, I think there was a lot of property tax legislation. Everybody thinks they've got an answer on how to solve this problem we have with property taxes. So I've sent you kind of a summary of what we're looking at. The governor has until November, I think, to sign it. Otherwise, other measures have to be taken. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions or discussion? Small.
If anybody would like to discuss this legislation, you know where to find me. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? This is Dave Wilsey.
Yeah, Mr. Wiltsey, go ahead.
I had to sign off and sign back in because I just couldn't get an audible. Maybe we could make a note of this. The sheriff mentioned that of the intersections, 2 of them were at Caledonia, 4th and 173. And I wasn't sure if I should ask the sheriff or the highway engineer, but in any event, I couldn't get recognition because of whatever had happened with the phone. I just wondered if, and Justin Crone mentioned this, a flashing sign with speed limits showing whether we should reduce. The Caledonia 173 intersection is completely visible, but it's high speed. And I'm just wondering whether a consideration by the sheriff or the highway engineer or a combination of the 2 of them could reduce the speed in that area for a brief area so that there'd be a safer situation at that intersection. And I apologize for not being able to access earlier. I actually had to sign off and sign back on.
No, it's no problem, Mr. Wiltsey. Here, Mr. Crum can.
So 173 is a state route. Actually, the state has applied for, and many are going to love to hear this, but the state has applied for a grant to build a roundabout at Caledonia 173.
That would be great. Those big Those big 53 footers, they just run through there and then they go down Poplar Grove Road or Caledonia, you know?
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks. Does that answer your question, Mr. Wilson?
We get one of those at Sean's.
Crashes become low speed crashes.
Okay, so we'll go on there then to
That one they got.
coroner quarterly presentation.
I'll just talk.
We get
Who's all here tonight?
John, 10 minutes.
No, she's.
had a chance to review that. On to the department.
I have the health department on here.
We have that?
Amanda or Allison.
Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. Amanda Mail here from Boone County Health Department. Are you ready for my report?
Yes, please.
Okay. My apologies. It was cutting out a little bit, so I didn't quite hear you, Mr. Larson. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for having me on Zoom. The monthly Board of Health report is updated in board docs for you to view in PDF. I'm just going to hit a few highlights. I know I've mentioned this before, but I know that we always have a lot of information in our packets. So one of the most important things to remember is that our admin report, as we call it, is divided up into 12 domains, which reflect the 10 essential services of public health, as well as administrative and finance, which are domains 11 and 12. And we've set that up that way and structured it that way because it's part of our accreditation process. So just a quick comment about accreditation. We did have our site visit at the beginning of May. It went very well. We were very pleased with how staff responded, how community partners responded, and some of the additional documents that they asked us for. We were able to provide those without too much trouble. We expect to hear from them in August. They did provide their initial report to us, and it was very positive, but the official ruling as to whether we're accredited or not will probably come in mid to late August. So we will obviously let the county board know how that goes, but we're anxiously awaiting that news. We'll be the 12th and the smallest health department in the state of Illinois to be accredited. So very excited and proud of the hard work that's gone into that process over the last handful of years. So those 12 domains are on pages 5 through 11 of that packet. There's just a few highlights I want to point out. On page 5 of our packet under domain 1, which is monitor health, we've been working pretty closely with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Food and Drug Administration, the CDC, and the state veterinary and public health officials here in Illinois. We're actively investigating any illnesses that may be coming about amongst dairy cows. As many of you know, we have many dairy farms here in Boone County, and we have a couple with herds that are upwards of 400, which puts those particular herds potentially at higher risk just because it's a larger volume of cattle. So we're working really closely both with veterinarians in the county and also working with the Winnebago Boone Farm Bureau to organize some informational sessions. Currently, to date, there are 3 human cases, 2 from Michigan and 1 from Texas, where we've seen the illness spread from cattle to human. So that's really our main concern and what we're monitoring at the moment. The cattle themselves generally don't get terribly ill. It's just a mild cold that they experience, but the transfer of the virus from cattle to human is producing potentially more severe symptoms. So we're keeping an eye on that. There's no situation at this point where anybody would need to put any of their cattle down. That's not what's happening. I know that that's been circulating a lot on the internet. That's a myth. I know that's happened with birds when birds have H5N1, but with cattle, it's a different situation. So at this point, we're just in the education stage, making sure that the workers on the farms have proper PPE and proper information, both in English and Spanish for the workforce here in our community. And then working with the Farm Bureau just to make sure that they have all the up-to-date information. So we've been pretty actively involved in that for the last 2 months. No human cases in Illinois yet to date. And then on page 7, I'll just jump there really quick and mention a few things. Domain 4 is mobilized community partnerships. And I did want to mention that the Maternal Child Health Coalition has successfully launched a data dashboard, which is exciting. So on page 12 of our packet, there's a news release, which you all received about a week and a half ago, And if you haven't had a chance to visit yet the dashboard, I would encourage you to do so. The links to visit the dashboard are within that press release, and it shows local data, both primary data that the council has collected, as well as the health department and other agencies that work with the maternal child health population. But then we also have secondary data shown there from sources like SAMHSA and the CDC, Illinois Birth to Five, the Women, Infants, and Children USDA program, et cetera. So that is designed for informational purposes and also for transparency's sake. We like to be able to show the tracking of certain grant deliverables that the health department and other agencies are working on. But we also want to make sure that people are aware of the health statistics and numbers that are affecting the maternal child health population in Boone County. So many of you have probably been on the behavioral health website for CORE and been able to see some of those numbers. We now have our second health priority, which is maternal child health, available to the public and to yourselves to be able to on the website. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention briefly is the Maternal Child Health Council is hosting a Boone County community baby shower. And I'll make sure that this flyer goes out to y'all. It was finalized after our board packet was put together. It was made mention of in the packet. On Saturday, June 22nd, we're partnering with Zion Lutheran Church and Molina Health, as well as Representative Dave Vella's office. There are 50 community members who will receive the opportunity to have a basket with items for their newborn that is on the way, as well as some raffle prizes. And there's been quite a bit of time and investment that's gone into this. We're partnering with organizations like CASA, the YMCA, the Park District, our churches in the area, several of our healthcare organizations. And that just helps us to provide service to the community and needed donations for some of our families that may need some baby supplies, as well as shows the partnership that we have with many of the community organizations. So if any of you are interested in donating or attending and participating, it's going to be an open to community event, and we're really looking forward to it. We're grateful for the financial support from Molina Healthcare, one of our managed care organizations here that services Boone County, because they've been able to provide a lot of the finance that have gone into providing these needed donations for some of our community members. So those were really the key things that I wanted to point out tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Mr. Mueller?
Amanda, a couple questions on this H5N1. If you could write down these questions and take to your superior. I was curious on how this goes from a 2-year-old cow to a lactating cow, or from a 2-year-old animal to an animal that just has a calf. Because right now our regulations are that anything under 2 years old can be transported anywhere, but if they're over 2 years old, they cannot be transported out of the state of Illinois. And how the virus differentiates between a Black Angus cow and a Holstein, because right now currently the Holstein or the Angus mom cows, they can be transported anywhere in the state of Illinois or Wisconsin, and not black and white Holstein cows or any lactating dairy cow. And all mammals that have a baby are lactating, if I'm not sure, I'm trying to be politically correct on that. So if you could ask some questions, that'd be great for me. Get some answers next month.
For sure. I just wrote down both of those points. I'm not going to put Allison on the spot. She happens to be on the line with me, but this question about transferring cattle across state lines has come up both at the Board of Health meeting and at several of the educational had with dairy farmers. Allison, I know you have some information on transferring cattle across state lines and certain testing requirements. Are you able to share that with the board?
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity to speak on that. So from my understanding, as Amanda did mention, USDA has the authority over the transferring from state to state and overseeing that. On their webpage, their most current information, which is being kept up to date regularly, does have the federal information for that. On their website, like I said, that posting does say that they can be transferred, but that they would have to be tested. So that is our understanding at this point in time. And Amanda and I will definitely make sure to get any clarification to both our board and then this full board.
Thank you, Allison. The other thing is that like if we can sell dry cows, but we can't sell lactating cows. And I'm just trying to figure out how this virus differentiates between a milking cow and a dry cow. I mean, in theory, I mean, if a virus is on something, I just don't, I haven't I haven't had any good answers to why it is just in a lactating cow. So versus a dry cow or a beef cow. And they all give milk. It's just a dry cow is non-lactating for 2 months before she's ready to have her next calf. So.
Yep. Yeah, and those are really good questions. I know that there's a lot of investigative work going into how this particular virus is translating through any type of fluid exposure, fluid exchange. So it was my understanding that the concern about lactating cows was the additional bodily fluid that they are producing, and how that can potentially cause a transfer of the virus from cow to cow or cow to human. But in terms of getting really specific answers to your questions, we will absolutely check with the USDA and the FDA and see if we can get you some more specific information.
All right, thank you.
This situation's a little bit tricky because the public health has certain jurisdiction over this, but a lot of it falls with FDA and USDA, and communication channels between state entities could be improved. And so sometimes by the time the information gets to us, it's old news. But Allison and I actually were working on this week because there are a lot of questions, and we are concerned because we are a county with many dairy farmers and many farmers that are working with cattle, and we want to make sure that the information is timely, because we want to make sure that businesses here are aware of what the regulations are, but also what they need to do to protect their workers, right? And so as soon as we can get that answer, Board of Health had the same question, we'll get that information forwarded to the full county board as well.
Thank you. And I did see they sent out a flyer to our farm today on the protective wear we're supposed to have, or the clothing that we're supposed to wear. And I'll give anybody $1,000 so they can sit through milking and all that protective gear and survive.
Yes, it's like working a nursing shift with all of the PPE during the hardest times of COVID. It is very hot, very hot, very uncomfortable, and very, very hard to do the work that you need to do with all of those layers on 100%.
Yeah, but they're in an air conditioned and heated building. We're talking 95 heat index. It just doesn't work. So I'm just trying to get some answers. So thank you.
Yep. Understandably, which is why I wanted to talk a little bit about what we did know tonight. And then I had a feeling there might be some questions. So we're happy to work on that for you.
Okay. Is that Mr. Thornberry?
And back in 2012 and 2014, when I was on the county board, I was county representative on a committee that studied mental health and what was available in Boone County. And the outcome of that meeting was that Boone County had non-existent mental health facilities in Boone County, and what was available in Winnebago County was far from adequate. Has that improved any?
Quite a bit. It's not where it needs to be, but we've seen, for example, before we started the Behavioral Health Task Force and the CORE program, we were seeing the Illinois standard is one mental health practitioner to every approximately 300 to 350 residents. The Illinois average was more like one mental health practitioner to 500 to 600 residents. In Boone County, it was one mental health practitioner to every 4,500 Boone County residents. So we were actually close to the bottom of the barrel for all 102 counties for that particular statistics in particular. And since the CORE program has begun connecting people to services both in county and out of county, and since we've seen some of our mental health provider partners such as Crusader Clinic, Rosecrans, and Remedies not only set up local offices, but also be able to provide direct services here in county so that people aren't traveling out of county, we've seen that number reduce to closer to about one practitioner to every approximately 2,500 residents. So it's far from where it needs to be, but significant improvements. A couple of things that we're working on right now that will hopefully further close that gap. is the health department is working with UIC's LP Johnson Medical Center, which is now called Miles Square. They have an office outside of Swedish American Hospital, which is now UW Health in Rockford. But that's a haul for people to get there, right? So we offer a telehealth bridge clinic option now at the department where people can arrive at our facility and use a teleprompter to speak to a provider in Rockford. They can do a same day, next day appointment and go through telehealth, and then the medication can be prescribed to them at one of our local pharmacies. So that's something we've started in the last 9 months or so that we're working on building. We're hoping that that will help to close the gap. I also know that Remedies has made some changes to the mental health services that they're able to provide in the Rockford MSA, so both Winnebago and Boone counties. And we've had several meetings on how we're going to distribute out that workload to make sure that it doesn't further affect those numbers in a negative direction. So I would say those are two examples of areas where we're seeing a closing on. But to be completely honest and candid, there's a lot more work that needs to be done there. In the last 8 weeks, our team has submitted 4 additional behavioral health grants to Department of Justice and to the Illinois Department of Human Services, hoping to continue to expand the core program to meet some additional gaps and needs that exist in the county.
Has our coverage in the jail system improved any?
Quite a bit. We have we work with Crusader Clinic, and they provide a nurse practitioner, and a behavioral health counselor, and those individuals are on site once a week. And the detainees that are in the jail have access to both the medical services through the nurse practitioner and the jail nurse that's employed by the health department, as well as that counselor who comes weekly. In addition to that, one of our Department of Justice grants pays for a full-time addictions counselor. And this is a staff member who's subcontracted through Remedies. You may remember last month when I came forward and asked for an approval of an updated memorandum of understanding between the health department, Boone County, and Rosecrans that included the job position of that addictions counselor. She spends her full-time days in the jail and works specifically on substance use and abuse assessments, linking people to treatment and getting them situated so that when they do leave the jail facility, especially if it's a quick turnaround now with the changes with the Safety Act that has come about, we can hopefully get them situated and then transitioned into care in the outside world once they leave. So those programs have been made possible by some of these grants that we've been able to get starting in 2019. And we're seeing better coverage for detainees. One of our biggest challenges is since the Safety Act came about, we're finding that, people are not staying as long in the jail. And so we have less time to make contact with them and establish a rapport and a relationship. So 2 of the most recent grants that we wrote were focused on having staff work on the quick transition from being inside the 4 walls of the jail out into the community, because just because they leave the jail and they leave without needing to go through a bond out process doesn't mean that they're fully equipped with the mental health and substance abuse services that they need to function well in the outside world. So several of the grants we're waiting to hear back on will hopefully help us to close that gap a little bit further too, because we do see challenges once people leave with drug usage and then also undiagnosed or untreated mental health issues.
Thank you. Congratulations on your service.
Welcome. Thank you. Were there any other questions, Mr. Larson?
Yep. Hey, I just have a question. On domain 5 of your staff packet there, that mentions a new artificial intelligence usage policy. Do you mind touching on just what that's about there?
Sure. That's so in the field of public health, we've seen that other health departments across the country have begun to develop policies related to AI, especially with the concerns related to protected health information that we're responsible for maintaining within our office and the nature and level of sensitivity of some of the communicable disease work that we do. So in lieu of that, we did draft a policy and worked with county admin and also with Boone County IT. Had several conversations with them, and then internal meetings. There was a large discussion actually at the Board of Health meeting this past Monday with some questions and concerns about what's that going to look like and how is that going to unfold as AI continues to expand and change. And we anticipate that policy needing to be revised pretty regularly to keep up with how quickly those things change. But for the moment, it's designed to put specific limitations and guidelines in place for when staff can and cannot use AI. And also it's meant to keep protected health information and AI very separate, as well as certain translation and interpretation services that would be potentially inappropriate to use AI for if we're dealing with a patient provider relationship and we would need that to be done by a formal interpretation service that we pay for, as opposed to AI. So like Google Translate or something else that we would use online. So those were the main reasons why we went forward with outlining a policy. And the Board of Health has asked us to bring that back forward periodically as things change, and we'll be working through it with them.
Thank you. Is there any other questions, comments for Ms. Mill? Do you have anything else there to share, Ms. Mill, or?
No, I don't believe so. Thank you all very much for your time, and I'll stay on the line for a portion of the rest of the meeting if there are additional questions later on in the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Animal Services with Mr. Barrett.
Good evening. Normally I start with the financial stuff. You're all aware of the county changing over the Tyler system, so I was not able to get that treasurer's office, and I will update our record as they're in the future. So in the second quarter, Animal Services has been very busy. Our expected warm weather uptake it happens every year, started pretty early this year, and it's kept us busy and full. We impounded 58 dogs and 56 cats in the second quarter. We were able to return 39 of those dogs to their owners and 15 cats to their owners. We adopted out 7 dogs and 2 cats. We were also able to send 6 dogs to rescues and 36 cats to rescues. And I'll circle back to those cats here in a moment. And we currently have 8 dogs available for adoption. So if anybody's looking for another dog or perhaps 3 or 4 of them, come see us. We might be able to work something out. Perhaps one of the staff members, they're all 3 or 4 of us paying the fee for you. So we've talked about the HVAC system many times over the last couple of years, and we finally got that project completed a couple of weeks ago. It's taken, the work has been slow, admittedly, for a variety of reasons, but we're happy to finally have that work done. It was finalized in mid-May with the installation of the rooftop unit. Over the winter, contractors did come out on several occasions to do work that was in interior, up in the attic space and in the 2 dog wards. So right now, the system is set up so that when we're cleaning the inside of the 2 dog wards, we turn a control timer on that runs for an hour and exhausts all that steam outboard instead of through the HVAC system, which is where the problem arose in the first place, having essentially wrecked that HVAC unit in the period of about 6 years. So we're hoping to get a significantly longer life out of this. It's been busy out there, really for the last couple of months. I guess it'd be our uptick started a lot earlier this year. We've had several significant impounds. Back in March, we went to a eviction case where we had to remove 11 cats from the home there. In April, we impounded 38 cats from another place. We've had multiple occasions where we've impounded several dogs from the same cases or calls. Just yesterday, the officer and I went out on one call and came back with 4 dogs. Those 4 dogs took up the only available space that we had. 4 dogs, 1 kennel. Fortunately, we were able to find the owner yesterday afternoon, and they came and got the dogs. Well, we've gone back and forth between 2 or 3 open spaces and no open spaces for the last few weeks. But the staff finds ways to make it work and keep the animals comfortable and well taken care of. The space and resources available. So I'm proud of the work that they do. So back in April, myself, the officer that was on duty with me, the health department, and the sheriff's department all responded to it started out as a welfare check on the occupants of the house. And then when we got there, we found out that there was a significant number of cats. It was unknown how many at the time. It ended up being 38 live cats, and there were unfortunately 3 that were found deceased. And couple of the deputies, Allison from the health department, myself, and my officer removed 30 cats that first day, and that we trapped 8 more over the following week or so. Huge undertaking in staff resources, time, material resources. It took staff coming in an hour and a half early every day, all 7 days, staying late in the evening, staff that were off on whatever day coming in to help out the others, just to take care of those 38 cats and keep up with the dogs at the same time. In addition to that, we had to go to the house twice a day, every day, to check traps and then go in as the cats were caught, and then rebait the traps. We continued to receive help from the sheriff's department throughout that time, because every time we went in the house, we had to take a deputy with to stand by while we were there. So a lot of help again from the sheriff's department. We appreciate that. Three of the 38 cats were owned by somebody other than the occupant of the house. Unfortunately, they were reclaimed by the owners of those cats. And the son of the occupant, who has power of attorney over her affairs, did end up signing over the cats to the county. And Kelly was able to work with the Purebred Specialty Cat Rescue. So you got that name right. Is securing transport for all of those cats to their organization, which took place in small groups over several days. They had their people coming in vans, and they took possession of 35 of those 38 cats and assumed responsibility for their veterinary care, significant veterinary care. All of these cats were exposed to an ammonia smell that would be hard for anyone to imagine. So that, they'll all require significant veterinary care, and this organization took all of that on. That they're taking on the day-to-day care of all of these animals, just an enormous undertaking on all parties involved. And we are enormously grateful to them for all of the support that they gave us in very quick, notice. And then also appreciate the administrator for her support while we dealt with all of this and trying to get these animals into a better living situation. And she approved us sending $5,000 to this organization to help them with the significant costs that they've undertaken as well. So we're appreciative of your help with that. Those are just some of the animals that require a lot of vet care, and then we've had several other instances with animals that have had significant veterinary issues. And again, as I say, every time I'm up here, we're all very appreciative to all of our monetary donors who make all of that veterinary care possible. Without those donations, we would not be able to be in the position to get a lot of these animals vet care that they may not get in other situations. And we're grateful for that ongoing support. And then I'll end with this. Just this past weekend, the Hideout Bar and Grill up in Poplar Grove, who have continued to support us financially over the last few years, they hosted a Pause on the Patio event. Our staff went up there and participated in that. And the event ended up raising over $400. So we're grateful for them for their continued support of our organization and veterinary care for all the animals that come through our organization. They've raised in excess of $10,000 for us in the last 3 years. And we're very appreciative of that. I don't think any of my staff's listening, but if they catch this later on, and I guess for all of you to hear it, if you run into them, to pass it on to. I'm ever appreciative to the three of them for the work that they do day in and day out. I feel like my words are inadequate to express what I feel in my heart for all of them. And these words here won't do what they do every day justice. I wish I could do better. Words just aren't able to do enough. So with that, I'll take any question.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Brett? Ms. Branson?
You guys used to do nail clippings for animals. Do you guys still do that? Or like, they used to be a $5 donation. Is that still offered?
We don't, we actually removed that from the list of line items in our system, just this week. We haven't done any since Cal and I have been there the last 4 years. It's not anything that's addressed in the Animal Control Act as responsibilities of animal control organizations. And when I was interviewing for this position with Mr. Johnson and a couple of former board members, they made it very clear that they were interested in returning to the things that are obligated the organization by the Animal Control Act and the Humane Care for Animals Act, and moving away from things that were extraneous to that.
I always thought it was a really nice service.
Further, we just don't feel like that's something that we have the time to be able to do.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Burrell? Okay, seeing none. Flat.
Good evening.
Any discussion on the written monthly departmental reports or updates? Seeing how you. On to the new business, 9.1. Need a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $310,684.01. With the understanding that Carl Johnson abstained from voting on all claims presented by William Charles, Northern Illinois Service Company, 4 in Maine, all claims submitted by the Boone County Highway Department, and all claims submitted by any county department regarding stormwater, construction, and excavation. Motion by Mr. Schneider, seconded by Mr. Logson. Any discussion, Mr. Johnson?
Just let the board know I'm going to abstain from this vote, as there's a few companies on the list doing various things within the county that my company does business with, aren't necessarily my customers, but my company does business with them elsewhere in other divisions, so I'm just going to abstain.
Mr.
Yes, I do have something. There was a question on, I'm trying to think. It was under the corrections. Under corrections, Department 0071, Ravine Paving installed billboards outside kitchen for $5,655. Does anybody have any information what that would be? Kitchen.
Do you know?
Where? Outside corrections, Ravine Paving installed billboards outside a kitchen for $5,655.
I think it's ballards or bollards, not billboards.
Oh, yeah, solid. I'm sorry, bollards. Billboards. Am I wrong? I just. That's what it says. It says Ravine Paving LLC, invoice 003441. It says install bollards outside kitchen for.
Mr. Johnson.
If it was an installation of bollards, it's those concrete posts that you see maybe around a fire hydrant. It was probably to help block an entrance or something like that. So they probably redid some paving and redid some other things, installed those. Yeah.
Okay, my problem with my reading, I thought billards or billboards and so makes sense.
One day.
Yes. That's all I got.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Yep. Rodney Riley, yes. Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Ryan Schneider.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Aye. Aye.
Got it. Thank you. Ray Larson.
Aye.
Brett Mueller.
Aye.
Tom Wahlberg. Elisa Patterson.
Yes.
Dana Logston.
Aye.
Jerry Branson.
Aye.
Carl Johnson. Abstain. Sir. Marion Thornberry.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you. 9.2 raffles, is there any need for discussion on that?
So
9.3, I need a motion to approve special use permit 05-024 1410 Fairgrounds Road. Motion, Mr. Mueller. Seconded by Mr. Thornberry. Mr. Roberts.
Yes, thank you. The special use application before you is, for the applicant EJR Technologies and is located at 110 Fairgrounds Road. The applicant is seeking, the special use to allow for self-service outside storage of boats, trailers, RVs, and outdoor power sports vehicles in the B2 business district. The lot development requirements for the commercial or industrial use such as this include drainage, retention, landscaping, lighting, off-site parking, ingress and egress, site access permits, site circulation, and buffering from the adjacent property, as well as traveling motorists along Fairground Road. The zoning board of appeals found that the proposal has met the requirements of the zoning code and adopted the findings of facts as drafted, and they voted 5-0 in favor at the zoning board of appeals meeting on May 28th. Staff had requested for review building and zoning, the health department, Boone County Soil and Water, county engineer, and the conservation district with no objections. Safety is a concern for the proposed special use based on the number of items proposed for storage. Staff has had some concerns with the demarcation of the stalls as well as the possible environmental hazards. However, the staff has indicated that a number of conditions are being worked through to be required to mitigate these concerns. The applicant will be required to work with staff to revise the site and mitigate, as I said. The Boone County Department concerns have been reflected in the recommended conditions of approval, and there are no other concerns from the other agencies. As part of these conditions, the applicant will be required to meet the building codes and ordinances and provide for the development requirements that have been included as the site demarcation plan, updated landscaping and circulation standards. The attorney and the applicant were present at the zoning board of appeals. They did indicate their agreement with the terms, and there were some questions on the landscaping and review. And they were also in agreement with the findings and the conditions. The zoning board of appeal had a couple of questions with regards to the applications, with regards to the parking area. And then finally, the zoning board of appeals accepted the findings and voted with a vote of 5-0. Staff has found that the special use is consistent with the history of the site and the future zoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the petition has met the zoning ordinance findings required, along with the 16 conditions that were recommended.
Mr. Curry?
This is in town, basically, all right, it's right there. And I think them going above and beyond adding, you know, the foliage, the trees and everything else, I don't even think they have to do that.
So the landscaping?
Right.
As part of the special use permit, they are required, to do so with that.
Well, it's probably gonna look nicer than a lot of the stuff, you know, that close to town, you know, meaning that they're gonna landscape that and look nice. So, you know, as much as I tout on doing stuff like that outside, you know, this is like you said in the comprehensive plan, I don't see any issues with this. I'd approve of it, be in favor of it.
Mr. Wahlberg?
Thank you, Mr. Larson. So just clarification, Jessica, then a couple of questions. Number one, the property as stated will retain gravel, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
A little background here. The parking lot will remain gravel?
Correct.
Okay. I know that was one of the concerns of adjacent neighbor that was favorable to them based on water runoff and that. Second question was landscaping. You said to your specifications or something. You come to an agreement on that, or what's that involve?
Well, the has read that there'll be 60% of landscaping provided along the frontage, so that there's a little bit more buffer than what they originally posed. And we'll be able to come to an agreement on that. They had already reached out to me to ask about some of the specific plantings and, it is dictated through the ordinance. So that will be checked through that. In addition to that, I have, directed them to place more evergreens than, deciduous because of the, winter months. So that way it can be, buffered from the viewpoint from Fairgrounds Road, or that's the intent of it.
Okay, sounds cool. And then, lastly, I don't think there was any objections made by any of the neighbors.
Applicant's representative is here.
Mr. Thornberry?
Is this the one that's out there where the old Belvedere trailer park used to be next door to RJ?
It's my understanding.
Yes.
Other people can say otherwise.
Back in the day.
Yes. I'm a little confused why we're getting this now when they've already started doing what they want to do. Why weren't we brought into this before they done anything?
The initial request was for boat use, which is listed as a permitted use in the B2 zoning district. And there was some discussions back and forth that the applicant had wanted to expand to this increased outdoor storage as well as like self-service, almost like you go in and you do it your self-service. And that is listed as a special use permit. So they were required to do that before something of that nature.
I don't have any objections to what they're doing because it's better than what was there. I was just wondering why we were talking about this after it already got started, but that's good.
Mr. Johnson?
Can we maybe hear from the representative just to see if they've got anything they want to say?
Anything you'd like to share?
Attorney Jim Hirsch, I represent Eric Deutschman, who is the owner of EJR Technologies. Good question. The use actually changed. If you have been down State Street, and I want to say it's Madison, in the last 3 or 4 years, you've seen boats spilling out onto State Street all over the streets and ATVs everywhere and guys having to drive their ATVs 2 blocks to get them worked on. The city got a little tired of that, understandably. And so they asked him to find another place. He contacted me. We looked and looked. He looked into buying the county building that is going to be vacated eventually, that's near this spot. So it was just going to be a spillover. He was just going to take the spillover and the ones that he couldn't get inside were going to go out to this facility, run back and forth to get them and keep his business downtown. Wasn't going to work real well. He ran to a gentleman named Jack Barnes. Barnes was going to retire, so he bought Jack's place out on Locust. Now he's got almost enough room to keep everything out there, so he did change the use. That's what prompted this. It was under works. He'd come in, talk to people. Yes, you can do what he initially wanted to do. Here's how you can do it. And then he changed the use. So that's why we find ourselves here. That's why it had been started. It's not going to be blacktop. If you've seen the boats and things that he works on, they're way too heavy. They're going to fall through the blacktop. The tongue weight just doesn't tolerate that very well. I have been in contact with Ms. Roberts quite a bit about the demarcation of the parking. The only people that I haven't talked with yet is the fire department. I have a call into them, waiting for a return on that. But I think everything else is agreed upon and fallen into place. And we asked about maybe doing some mesh screening instead of the slats for the chain link, but it sounds like the slats are preferred. So.
Mr. Thornberry?
Did he buy all of that or just what he's using now? Because that's a lot deeper than what he's gone.
Correct. And no, his property does not go all the way back. Gary Dixon to the south, Angie Daniels to the north. They both had an interest in, there were 2 or 3 parcels there. So we bought them a piece at a time so they were adjacent, and then he combined them. So it does not go any deeper than he's at. Mr. Dixon wanted to hang on to the property that is back there in case he wants to expand his dealership and automotive shop.
Any other discussion? I just have I guess a question for so it's a self-storage place, but the ground's gonna remain permeable. Is going to be anybody going out there to monitor if there are spills? Because
Sure.
if you lose 20 gallons of gasoline onto it and you're not there to see it, it's just gonna.
Valid concern. It's going to have drains and a spill pit kit is what they call it. It's about a $20,000 investment for him to get put up and make it right. So yes, that's going to take care of it. My guess is Eric's going to be checking on it every day anyway, going in and out of there. Some of his stuff that he's working on may still end up out there while it waits to get worked on. There'll be no work on items that are there. So, and there's conditions for spills and that kind of thing.
I also think he said that he would be installing cameras. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, there'll definitely be cameras. There'll definitely be cameras there. All the first responders will have the access code. So, yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Jim.
9.4, I need a motion to approve SUP-08-2024 203XX Harnish Road. By Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Schneider. Ms. Roberts?
Yes, thank you. This property is located in unincorporated Manchester Township. The approximate location is 203XX Harnish Road. The applicants, Chad and Christine Orlick, are seeking a special use permit to allow for a second dwelling in exchange for a letter of record within the Boone County zoning code by special use permit. The proposed building area is part of a larger parcel set to be portioned out for the new single-family residence. The applicant wishes to build a home on the portion of the existing 40 acres. Depending on the suitability, the applicant may choose to build on all or a portion of the homestead parcel and a portion of the lot of record to capture that possibility. They decided to go through the special use permit. The applicant and his wife have been farming the land for approximately 6 years and have a number of beef cattle, row crop, and hay, and 60 acres of pasture. The zoning board of appeals did find that the proposal meets the requirements of the zoning code and then accepted the findings of facts as drafted with a vote of 5-0 in favor at the zoning board of appeals. The applicant, as part of any building of the single family residence, the applicant will need to complete and submit a plan review for the well and septic to the health department, as well as obtain any access permit from the township as part of that permit application. Boone County's department concerns are reflected in the recommended conditions of approval, and there were no other concerns from other agencies. There was a public hearing and the applicants were available for questions and concerns, and they indicated their desire to build. The zoning board of appeals had some discussion or in favor of the use and again accepted the findings. Staff finds that the case is consistent with the zoning and consistent with the comprehensive plan by meeting goals and objectives, and has found that the petition has met the zoning ordinance's findings as recommending the approval of special use subject to the 4 conditions that have been recommended.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion on the? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. 9.5, we need a motion to approve SUP-09-2024 7797 Marengo Road. Very good. Motion by Mr. Schneider, seconded by Roberts, please.
Yes, thank you. This property is located in unincorporated Bonus Township, again at 779 Moringa Road. The applicants Nicholas and Brian, thank you, are seeking a special use permit for the seasonal tourist attraction to grow and sell vegetables, flowers, and other farm flora seasonally in the A1 district. Their narrative is describe the business and the plants that are grown on the property as specialty crops. The business is said to operate from May 1st to October 31st with the temporary Christmas tree sales in the winter. The hours of operation are proposed as during the daylight from approximately 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and has described the days of the week are every day so long as the product is available for sale. The site plan is indicated the areas where the business sales are proposed, and currently the operation is conducted outdoors. The zoning board of appeal had found that the proposal met the zoning code and accepted the findings of fact and voted in favor of 5-0. The Boone County staff review, the building and zoning health department, soil and water, county engineer, Boone County Conservation District had no objections, and the applicants have indicated potential future operations with other existing buildings. It was communicated and will be required that any public occupancy to any existing or new structures must be in compliance with all building and commercial codes, standards, and regulations, including but not limited to, in that case, of permanent restroom facilities. Parking has been shown on the site, and the use will be required to supply parking as dictated by the Boone County zoning ordinance. This will need to be demonstrated to staff and show that adequate parking is provided and the appropriate setbacks have been adhered to. In addition, the applicant has requested some food truck operations as part of their special use permit, and the food truck operations have been required to be temporary and obtain all appropriate licenses, and it's what is determined within any conditions of approval. The applicant will be required to provide the appropriate sanitation, which is indicated by a porta potty and hand washing station by a licensed operator reviewed and approved by the Boone County Health Department when any food truck is in operation on the site. Anything served in the future more than on a temporary basis would require permanent facilities. The Boone County Department concerns have been reflected as part of the conditions of approval, and there were no objections. There was public testimony. The attorney Noble indicated that the applicant's intentions on the property, the applicant was available for any questions or concerns, and the applicant and the attorney agreed to the conditions and findings. There was some discussion on the number of the limitation of the food truck sales, and the applicants were asking for more frequent weekends allowed. They requested 6 in the spring and 6 in the fall. Some discussion were made with regards to the weekends. And in addition, there were 3 different persons in favor of the use. Liz Murphy of Capron indicated her support, Jack Ratcliffe indicated his support, and Daryl Davis of Bowen Township indicated his support. Again, the discussion by ZBA had to do with the number of weekends for the food trucks, and the zoning board of appeal accepted the findings of fact, voted 5-0. Staff is also recommending that the special use is consistent with the site and the future zoning and the comprehensive plan, and has found that the zoning ordinance findings of facts required have been met. And are subject to the 13 conditions that were adopted as part of that. I do want to point out that condition 11 was slightly revised based on what the zoning board of appeals had landed on with a number of weekends for the food trucks, as well as I added some language to the sanitation part of the condition that just spelled out what sanitation meant. So I added the language of specific porta potty and hand washing in the event someone might not know what the sanitation meant. So that was the only change I made since the board of appeals, and I highlighted it too. And the applicants are here if you have any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
So question for staff. You're talking about a limit of 8 times throughout, I guess, their season, I'll say, for selling for these food trucks.
Right.
why the limit? I guess I don't know that I ever recall us putting a limit like this on anything else. So I'm curious why we're limiting when they could or how many times they could.
Well, I started with a limit of 3 because I wanted to start somewhere. There wasn't any indication in their narrative on what they were going to do. So I wanted to have an idea and a reason to discuss, which we are discussing.
But I guess.
The limit is to the weekends only, and the number was to have the ability to make sure that, they were in compliance. That was essential.
I mean, I guess I'm just concerned that I get it just on weekends, that's fine. I mean, we can
Right.
say it on weekends. I mean, I think there's been precedents that we've done stuff like that in the past, but to limit, say you can only do it 8 times or 3 times or 2 times or 12 times, whatever. It just seems like kind of an arbitrary number that we've just picked out. Well, we want to make sure they're in compliance. Well, and I think that's the health department's determination.
Okay.
And if it's a licensed food truck, Marvin's Tacos or whoever, hopefully they'll pay me for that advertisement. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But or whoever, I just don't want to pick a number out of just because. I mean, I would rather say, look, if they can have food trucks on the weekends, they can have food trucks on the weekends. And it's up to us as staff and up to the health department to make sure everything's in compliance.
I think there have been concerns with unlicensed food trucks being on the property in the past. So I think part of that played into the decision to allow a smaller number of weekends so that the health department can enforce the licensure of the food trucks adequately. They don't want to be out there every weekend. They don't have the staff together.
Good. Makes sense to me.
Did you have something? Mr. Thornberry?
Yes, could we have the applicants, please? Because I have a little concerns on this too, because I'm familiar with your operation. I've been out there a few times. But I'm just wondering, is limiting this food truck, I know you have a seasonal business. So is limiting this truck X number of times gonna affect you in a negative way?
Hang on, do me a favor, folks, just before you start speaking, would you please give us your full name and address for the record so we have it?
Nicholas DeBryan, 797 Marengo Road.
Corinne DeBryan, 7797 Marengo Road.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The number of weekends, we have slow times and we have busy times. And those times are relatively short for our spring season. We begin the weekend before Mother's Day and we go right now, is it the 5th weekend, I believe? And it's really fast. And as we continue through the weekends, traffic gets slower and slower and slower. So it's really hard to say 3 would be enough, 4 would be enough. We're not going to have food trucks out there when there's no people because it financially wouldn't make sense for people that are selling anything because if there's no people, there's no reason. So it's just like an added bonus feature to just be more community involved and include other people because we are, we're a homegrown business and we'd like to support as many homegrown businesses as we can because that's why so many of our customers support us. So, I mean, there was no set, we don't want it every weekend. That was never the intention. It was just in the spring when we have quite a few customers coming in and out and in the fall, essentially. That was because we have spring flowers and we have fall mums and pumpkins.
So basically the limitation isn't gonna hurt you that much, if any.
At this time, probably not. We just like to have room for expansion in the future and not be limited to.
And it's hard to say,
It may come to some point where it never happens again. That may not be financially
worth it
for anybody to come out there.
I'm gonna have to agree with Mr. Johnson. I don't see any sense of putting a limitation on something that doesn't have a whole lot of effect on anybody to start with. Thank you.
Mr. Riley?
I think it's fantastic. You guys, things go well. this for a while. You can kind of gauge what you guys want to do. I'm comfortable based on what the state assistant state's attorney said. We can make it 8 at this point, and if we need to come back, if things are successful, and you guys can come back and let us know how you feel at that point, and we can certainly revisit it and increase that number without a doubt. So, but I wish you guys the best of luck. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Mr. Wahlberg?
Thank you, Mr. Larson. So, yeah, I agree with the comments there. I guess for clarification on this food truck thing, so I assume these are all Boone County licensed food trucks, that we have to have a Boone County license to be in Boone County food trucks?
The license is issued to the Boone County Health Department.
They would have to have our license to be in our county, correct?
Well, you operate legally in our county, yes.
And all the food is prepared within the food truck or within the kitchen?
You're asking the wrong person about that.
I think we have health department on here, she said.
She's still on.
Yeah. Hi, Amanda, Allison, we are still here. The food truck needs to be permitted to operate in Boone County. And then we also are part of the inspection process of where the food is prepared, whether it's prepared on the truck itself or whether it's prepared in a commissary. And depending on where the commissary is located, whether it's in county or out of county, then we would be working with the neighboring county to address those issues. But we would permit a food truck to operate here within the jurisdiction of Boone County. That's correct.
Okay, thank you, man. I had one more question. Or did you have something to add?
I'll go for it, and then I'll.
Go ahead, Mr. Wahlberg.
One more question about reading just in your report, you'd mentioned you'd refer to the county engineer. And I think the county engineer deferred to the road commissioner of Bonus Township, Ursa Township Commissioner. Did you receive feedback from the Bonus Township Commission?
I did not get any comment from the Bonus Township.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Thornberry? What was that?
Just to put on a little more on what Tom asked there, all that food truck's kitchen their food has to be prepared in a certified kitchen. It can't just be prepared at home. That food truck has to have their food. If it's not prepared on the truck itself, it has to be prepared at a certified kitchen.
Go
ahead, Ms.
I think that's what Amanda was referencing with the commissary.
Yes, Mr. Thornberry, may I speak? Is that acceptable?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Meal.
Okay, so our permitting process includes a series of questions for trucks related to where the food is prepared and where the food is stored. And different food trucks have different proposals. But if food is not prepared on the truck, then it has to be stored and prepared at a commissary that is also needing to be permitted, whether it's permitted directly by us or whether it's being permitted by a neighboring county. And then we're working directly with that neighboring county, and that commissary is being inspected in the county of origin. So the commissary kitchen and food truck both have to be permitted. And that's something that the food truck themselves would apply through our office, right? It wouldn't apply through the individuals that are seeking the special use. It would be the food truck operator themselves that would need to come to our office and through that permitting process. If they're already on file and they're already permitted and their commissary is already approved, then they're able to operate within our jurisdiction. If they're not, then they go through our permitting process.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wiltie, go ahead.
Thank you. If you look at, this is SUP 09-2024, correct? If you look at page 1 of the 5-page overview, and you look at page 19 of the 23-point PowerPoint, there seems to be a lot of vehicles or trailers or something that show in the aerial. this may be unrelated to the applicant's application, but I'm wondering if this is a time when we might inquire as to when that would be straightened up or what the situation is there. And I say that seeing it from an aerial distance, which may not be appropriate for the circumstances, but this is my time to ask.
Ms. Roberts.
Just to note, I mean, of course you can ask or require that they, you know, make changes to their facilities. I mean, Carla could speak to that, but there is, as part of the conditions of approval, there will be a site inspection done by the zoning enforcement officer to ensure that there aren't any code violations in existence prior to the operation of the special use permit, in the event that what he's describing is a violation of our ordinance. I don't know whether it is or not, but in that regard, if there is any violations, they will have to clear them up before they can operate the special use permit. Now, orderliness, I'm not certain, but.
Well, and I guess, Mr. Chairman, what I'm worried about is, you know, this is an area that they're going to be doing food sales. I know the sales come from trucks, but from the aerial, it just seems to be a junkyard in that back area in page 1 of 5 and page 19 of 23. And that's what I can only see what I have on my paperwork, and I was just concerned about it.
Mr. Thornberry?
I've been out to that facility, and this overview that you're looking at here doesn't do it justice. I mean, granted, it's not the most organized yard, but it's still a farm. And I would assume that the conditions that the health department has put into their permit would take care of anything that's going to be unhealthy. I mean, if you're looking for beautification, that's another thing altogether.
I agree. So could I ask for those that are more familiar with the site, is that area of a lot of vehicles or whatever, trailers or whatever it is that not visible from any roadways?
I'm going to say
I can't see.
it's visible, but it's not part, I don't know how to say this. It's visible, not to the extent that you can see here, but it's not going to affect, or at least I don't believe it will. It's not going to affect or have an interference with what they're going to be doing and where they're going to be doing it at. It's actually away from their selling point, right?
It's behind the buildings. I mean, there's
On
a
the back of the property.
20-foot area that you could see through possibly, but it's behind the buildings.
I appreciate Mr. Thornberry, and I appreciate the applicants clarifying that for me, because just looking at it from an aerial, it just didn't look good. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Riley?
You guys are the applicants. You know what you've got back there. Obviously, if there's any issues that the building inspector, you're going to have to clear that up with them. So I'm assuming you're willing to work with them, and we'll get whatever we need to get done out there.
To be honest with you, most of the stuff that's in that picture is gone.
I think I drive by there. You know, one of the concerns I have, you guys are on the hill, right? Okay. Any concern with that highway wise? I mean, I know that's probably a township road or that, but that's the only other concern that I would have. Maybe we can talk to the local officials out there and get some signs up. Justin?
I did go out there and look for,
Yeah.
you know, it does have, you know, traffic approaching from the east is not an issue. Traffic approaching from the west.
Yeah.
There's a limited line of sight, but I think if, you know, if we don't have a history of accidents there,
Yeah.
you know, and there's already been vehicle traffic, there is an appropriate line of sight if everyone's driving the appropriate speed.
Yeah, I agree. Have you guys ever, just out of curiosity, you haven't had any incidents out there as far as that goes?
Not since we've started doing this.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I have just a question, maybe Ms. Roberts could answer here. So it's a special use permit for section 3.16.1, the table of permitted uses for a seasonal tourist attraction. What does that have, like a limitation on the season or the start of the seasons and the end of the season, or does it go 365? I'm not seeing it listed here.
So that's the category with the zoning ordinance. Type of like seasonally means, you know, not all year round. That's how I interpret it anyways. As it relates to their narrative and what they stated that they do most of their frequent business is from May 1 to October 31st, and the conditions of approval will limit that to the special use to that month's time. And that's where the seasonal.
Those dates are in the dates will be entered in the special use.
Yes, they're part of the conditions of approval.
Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments there? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you for coming tonight, folks.
Thank you.
On to 9.6 of discussion on county aerial imagery.
I thought we would run this past the board before doing an RFP, just to make sure that the board was okay with this, at least seeing what was out there and seeing what this would cost. Like I mentioned in the letter, we currently have 6-inch resolution aerial photography. Our last one was flown in 2021. GIS, we had originally budgeted to have another flyover this spring, but we off on signing that agreement with Wind GIS because we didn't want to spend 20 grand on something that we weren't sure we were going to use, because we were maybe going to look for something that was a little bit more robust for some of our other departments. You'll see in this letter, there's multiple departments that have displayed what these enhanced aerials images with the 1-inch resolution and the obliques could do for the departments. So I guess at this point, we're just making sure you're okay with us doing an RFP to see what's out there and see what this would cost. We've looked at one product that everybody really liked. I mean, you have 4 of your departments that use it, actually 5 because the health department's on. Actually 6 if you include the sheriff and 911. But we did view one product that we really liked, but we wanted to do an RFP and see what else is out there and what kind of price.
Ms. Tobin, did you have a price on the product that you did see that?
I did. I don't want to, I could give you a range. I don't want to say it. Yeah, I don't want to say it, but what the product we had looked at, it was actually a 6-year contract that included 2 flyovers, one this fall from early winter, and then another one in 3 years. A 6-year contract that we would enter. But there might be others out there that don't require the 6 years, or kind of wanted to see what was available. I think.
Did you have something first, Mr. Mealy? Ms. Branson?
Yeah, the first time I was on the county board, which, it's been a few years now, I think we did the flyovers once every 10 years. When did it change to every 3? I mean, that's quite a jump.
It's usually every few years. We didn't have them for a while because we were in the recession and there wasn't much growth. So I think there was quite a few years that we did not have a flyover, but generally it's every few years.
Going around the horn here, Mr. Johnson.
It's quite a jump.
Becky, are you just looking for thumbs up to go ahead and get an RFP?
Yeah.
I think absolutely we can't.
And then we'll bring it back.
Can't determine whether, unless we know how much it's going to cost. So I think it's a bad thing to have. So.
And especially, okay, thank you. And especially we do have other departments other than general fund that are willing to a big portion of this, including 911 and GIS. So we'll see what's out there.
Mr. Walbert?
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Yeah, I just was going to echo Mr. Johnson's comments, but I think that's the smartest thing to do is try to get what we can get the best resolution for, right.
Yeah, if it's not feasible, we'll go the other route. I mean, the city's holding off on theirs too, and they're willing to participate and pay for this rather than do theirs as well, so.
Mr. Chairman, when I may.
Mr. Wiltie, go ahead.
Thank you. I was impressed by the staff detail by department of how they thought this would be helpful, how they thought it would save them time, how they thought that would give them greater accuracy.
Taxes.
And I'm very much in favor of proceeding with this RFP.
All right.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, I'm not seeing any, I guess the general consensus is go ahead with it.
We'll let you know what we find. Yeah, we had a little bit of urgency because if we were going to do a fall flyover, we needed to get going on it now, so.
Good enough.
Mr. Mueller.
Can that come out of the ARPA funds?
Could if there was any left.
Moving on.
Okay. Going on then to 9.7, I need a motion to approve the purchase of a tractor in the amount of $69,480 from DeKalb Implement.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Schneider. Mr. Crone, go talk about that.
Yeah, I don't really have any comments. I can answer questions. On the second item, I do have some comments, but.
Okay, Mr. Mueller?
Trading in 2 tractors for 1?
Yeah, and yes, I'm trading in 2 for 1.
Any other questions or comments? We can just do a voice vote on this?
You can do what? Yeah, because it's got to go to the board, right? Becky?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Say nay. Motion carries. 9.8, I need a motion to approve the purchase of a batwing mower in the amount of $21,575 from Johnson Tractor. Motion by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Perry. Mr. Crone?
Yes, so we bid these together and the low bidder, we did reject their batwing mower. And since then, I have inquired about purchasing a mower, from other providers. And the one we used last time was Meridian Implement. They came back with a price under $20,000, and I'd like to purchase at $19,495 from Meridian Implements. So I wanted to amend that, and I don't. Yeah.
Say that again? You want to amend it?
Yes. Yes, we rejected the low bidders attachment batwing mower, and I have a amended price from that I would like to purchase the mower from.
Mr. Johnson?
Can I ask why the low bid won't work, or is there?
The low bid, they bid a John Deere, so the tractor's a John Deere. They bid a John Deere tractor, a John Deere mower for 26. We don't, all of ours are Woods mowers. Woods is produced down in, I think it's Oregon, down Oregon, or but down by Dixon, I guess, or off of Route 2 there.
Yep.
And we like the parts, we like the mowers. It's very easy to get parts. So the low bidder, DeKalb Implement does not sell that or is not a dealer for that. So that's why that was rejected. We kind of geared our bid towards getting a Woods, and we have not had good luck with John Deere mowers. So we wanted to get a Woods. That's
okay. Thank you.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to amend it.
So moved.
19,495 to, from Marine implement, Meridian, excuse me, implement. Motion by Mr. Johnson, I guess, and second by Mr. Thornberry. So we'll just vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Wiltie, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that those issues that Mr. Crone just stated about parts and John Deere and the accessibility, that be a part of the minutes so that there's a foundation for us moving to a different vendor for a different price. Thank you.
Thank you. Got that. Mr. Crone, you want to?
I will add that this is the lowest price for the mower as well. So not only is the product the one that we desire, but also it is the lowest price.
Mr. Wilmer?
So just a clarification, this on Meridian implement is a 3 years mower then?
That's correct.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend.
We already did.
We have to vote on it.
Yeah.
So is there any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Aye.
Motion. Now back to the original motion as amended. Is there any other discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. 9.9, 3D Aquafire Mapping Project Scope of Work. Who's taking this? Tobin, go ahead.
I think he's got it.
This is the scope of work that we received from Jason Thomason for the geology and aquifer mapping project. This is not the final contract. This is just the scope. So I wanted you to review the scope before we went forward and have the U of I do the formal contracts that would come back to you.
Patterson.
When I read through this, they're doing drilling. So it's $2,650 a day times 12. So it's the $31,200 line item. Don't they already have a project where they are drilling in Boone County? They're in McHenry. I thought they were doing Boone as well. So we have to pay, can they not incorporate that into the drilling that they're already doing would be the question.
I think it's a good question to ask them. From what I recall reading through it, I think the drilling had to do with this is way over, but pinpointing where they are with the lot when they do the flight. I could be wrong, but I think there was something to do with that. So I think it's definitely something to clarify with them and have them explain more.
Sure.
If not, then yeah, right.
Right. I mean, or can it be incorporated? I mean, it's to me, that's a lot of money that if we can combine the two, that it would make sense if we can.
Ms. Branson?
My understanding, and keep in mind, I did not get a chance to talk to Jason today. I called him a couple of times. He was in meetings all day and we just haven't been able to connect. But my understanding is that most of the drilling that's currently done is not with, but from what I've read and what I understand is that the aerial stuff does not do really clear stuff when you're in a lot of buildings and a lot of parking lots. So you need that drilling in those areas. Whereas at the conservation district land and stuff, where they've got the drilling is out more in the county. So it doesn't help them. I'm just asking if it's overlay. It's a great question because to me, I'm not paying $32,000 for holes that you're already drilling is all I'm saying. It's a great question, but it needs clarification. Yeah, for sure. And my understanding is that there's a reason that they're doing them. Yep. And if there's a reason, I'm good with it. But if not,
find out. Becky.
But I got to admit, a lot of it just goes, it's all scientific gobbledygook. That's why he's got the degree. That's why he's a geologist.
Roberts?
I think probably Becky and I were,
Let's Tobin go.
I'm not sure how or when, what the timeline is, but we'll follow up with.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the cost of the flight actually increased $24,000. So this scope cost here, the 491,917, represents the new cost. He said this is the final cost. That's the only one that had potential to change was the flight, and it did. So.
And the reason that went up is because they contract that out, because there's only like one company that does that. They contracted to those people, and that the flight cost went up for them. Like I assume it's the fuel and stuff like that is continuously rising because it's kind of a seasonal thing, kind of like diesel goes up in the fall. And their cost went up, which is why it's raising the bid.
All right. Find out what we need to know.
I can find that out.
Okay, does that take care of?
As an overview of the scope of work, is there any other questions or discussion then? So then this will come back to us maybe when approximately.
I can get an answer to the question. And then I could, and then if everybody's okay with it, we'll tell them to go ahead and have U of I prepare the contracts, which then you would also review, the state's attorney would review before anybody signs.
Okay, Mr. Wiltsey?
I thought it was a good, excellent summation of what was going to be done. I appreciated the clarity of it, and I would like to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So seeing no other discussion on that. There's no landfill update. And informational items, just the CCI stuff there. Mr. Riley.
Okay. We do need an executive session tonight. So I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session. 1, pending litigation, 12.2, collective bargaining, and 12.4, sale of real estate. By Mr. Mueller, second. Second by Mr. Schneider. Any discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call for that. Rodney Riley, yes. Brian Curry?
Yeah.
Brian Schneider?
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey?
Aye.
Ray Larson?
Aye.
Brent Mueller?
Aye.
Tom Wahlberg?
Yes.
Lisa Patterson?
Yes.
Dana Logston?
Also, yes.
Sherry Branson?
Yes.
Carl Johnson?
Yes.
Marion Thornberry?
Yes.
All right, we will be in executive session at 8:02 PM.
Request for a brief recess.